Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here, and I have the honor. Look at this man. Look at this good-looking man right now, Mr. Shawn Williams. How you doing, my man?
Doing great, Austin. You're looking good as well. Glad to be here with you today.
Thanks, man. And appreciate Austin Hartley for inviting us both to lunch that day, and we got to meet in Denver. But this is interesting. I wouldn't label you as just an inspector. But I haven't had one on my show, and that's why I thought it was very important, because a lot of real estate investors listen to my show, or new real estate investors. And so we'll get into a lot of different stuff, but I want to let you start your story where you want to, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Shawn Williams, owner of Iron Phoenix Inspections, based in Aurora, Colorado. And, I serve the whole front range to do home inspections. I've been in the business now for a little over 2 years. And really, before that, I've always worked with my hands. I've been an auto mechanic. I've been in the machinist union. And of course, I bought a house that was built in 1974. So I've had some things that I've had to do, and just kind of equipping myself and knowing how systems work and being able to explain that to people is extremely important, extremely empowering. And, I always want to serve people for their health, safety, and best interest. And this gives me the ability to do that. So, I love it.
I love it, man. And so we'll unpack a lot of stuff here. And why I'm comfortable having this discussion with him and knowing that he's not going to tell you lies is because I'm pretty firm in who Shawn is as a man and what he stands for. And so when we have this conversation, you've had conversations with people in the real estate business that maybe, you don't understand, you don't trust everything they're saying. He's telling the truth. And so that's why we're going to unpack a subject that is rarely talked about. And the angle I want to go with is we're going to start from A and try to get to C. And so basically, for anybody that's either newer to investing or buying their first home, what are the duties of an inspector, and kind of what you would like to see from said inspector?
Well, first, I feel like you always want to evaluate what their standards are. There are governing bodies for home inspectors. I'm actually part of Internachi, which is an International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. And there's a standards of practice that we have to meet as an inspector. So with that being said, there are different health and safety things that we always look for, and also things for best interest. Now, with there being a standard, the standard is probably like right here. But as a standard goes, you always want to kind of take it higher and offer people the best information that you can give them. So these are things regarding plumbing, which is extremely important, especially if you're talking about something like a main sewer line. That can be extremely costly down the line. If it's something like aluminum wiring, houses that were built between the late 60s and the mid 70s had aluminum wiring in them. So it's one of those things where you want to make sure that you can properly inform people and say, hey, you might need to get some repairs done to make sure that there aren't any fire hazards. Everyone uses their house differently. So if you have someone who's a minimalist who doesn't use a lot of electricity, and then you have somebody who has 6 daughters and all of them have a blow dryer, then that's going to put a little different load on the electrical system. So these are all things and factors that I like to think about and try to share with people. And I think it's really important.
And what would you say from a first-time home buyer or newer investor? What were you think? Because there's an excitement around getting your first property. I bought my first house after 7 years without realizing there was a closet in the master bedroom, because I just wanted to get into it so bad until we closed. But what do you think are the things that they don't either venture to ask or don't pay attention to that are probably the most important?
I think the approach is really like a three-tiered approach to defects. And this is something I always tell people. It's one of those things where you're going to have something that's really serious that is adverse to your health and safety. So those are things that are kind of high up on the list. And then you may have something that you're not equipped to handle yourself, and you may need to hire a contractor to help you fix. And then you're going to have your Home Depot special stuff. You're going to have stuff that you have to fix. You're going to have your honey-do list that's going to keep you busy every weekend for 6 months. So those are just kind of the things. It's like the approach when you go into it and just kind of setting the expectation of what home ownership brings, whether it's an investment property or whether it's, your first home. Because if it's an investment property, you know that you may have to lay down a little cash to fix some things and to kind of make it meet the standard of the investment that you want to use for it, whether it's a buy and hold or if it's a fix and flip. You want to make sure that you're kind of addressing those things in the best way. And if it's a fix and flip, it's one of those things where you want to make sure that it's safe if you're going to pass it on to the next person.
And so I know you're an inspector and you're not the buyer of said house, but I would love to get your opinion on why some imbecile would forego spending $400 to $500 to understand what's wrong with their house and close on a property. Because I know you've seen it. So try to wrap my head around something like that.
I mean, I think when it comes to a real estate transaction, there are just so many moving parts. And if you're somebody that's buying a house and you're like, oh, I need to get an appraiser, I'm talking to my loan officer, I'm talking to my realtor, I'm talking to this person, that person, you run out of fingers and you're like, inspector, oh, I don't have enough fingers for that. I don't want to go there. So I don't really get upset with it, but like, I just kind of like, it's not a great idea, because I'm actually going to give you an evaluation of the condition of the property, things that can be extremely important. And, that $400 or $500 compared to $10,000, to replace a sewer line or, just, so many different things. It's important to kind of see that. And also you'll have a report and, it's kind of like a book that you can put on your shelf and keep it for a long time.
And ultimately what you're giving them, in essence, is leverage to get a better deal.
Absolutely. I mean, that's another thing as well. I mean, a lot of concessions get made. You find something wrong with the sewer line. I've been blown away just by how quickly I'll talk to the agent that I was working with. They'll be like, they fixed it. No questions asked. The sellers fixed it with lightning speed, and it's like, I love to just kind of help people in that way because, knowledge is power. If you don't know what's going on, then it's a bad proposition.
And where I think, and this is where I wanted to go on this, what I think is the most underutilized asset, if you have a good one, is relying on an inspector for out-of-state investing. I think that speak on that, because I think that's the most underutilized asset. That is your stopgap. That is your person.
And, I have to agree. I mean, if I was going to invest out of state, I would definitely want to, call an inspector, pay a few $100s and just say, send me a report. And then I could actually see what's going on. I mean, I can't see everything, but you can get a general idea of what you're going to have to do as far as repairs are concerned. And, if there's something serious, if there are any like serious red flags, you can say, oh my goodness, yeah, this might not be the one for me. And I mean, just as an investor, there are a lot of moving parts in there as well. So, I mean, if it's a buy and hold property, you're not only dealing with a tenant potentially, you're possibly dealing with a property manager, and then you're dealing with the condition of the actual property. So if the property is in good shape to start, then those other factors become that much easier to manage. And you don't have to, worry about saying, I'm not paying rent because this hasn't worked in this long, or I have this window that's a problem and you haven't fixed it. So it's just like, wow, there could be so many different things that could happen.
All right. So guys, everybody slow down your recording put it on repeat because I'm about to explain to you how to leverage people like Shawn on the least amount of money put up to get a property under contract. Okay, guys, you normally get a 15-day to 10-day option period. Let's say you live in Utah and you invest in Ohio. So you would put up the earnest money to secure the property, which be $1,500 to $4,000 to $5,000. You would get that money back if you pulled out of the deal. You would then contact Shawn and you would say, what appointments do we have available? Shawn, I'm going to pay you $450 to go get me a report. Shawn's going to get you the report back to the property in 24 to 36 hours. You can then look at the property, sight unseen, and determine whether or not you want to continue on the project. If Shawn undercovers a lot of stuff that you don't want to go after, all you're out is $450 and maybe $100, so a total of $550. Because what people don't understand is the actual most important deal, or the most important part of the deal, is getting the asset under contract, especially in a market like this. So for $555, you potentially, whether that be a flip, a wholesale, a buy and hold, for $550, you got to peek under the hood with a certified person that's capable in saying it. You're still sitting in your pajamas in your house, drinking your cup of coffee while Shawn's working for you. And you might have a potential profit of 20 to 100 grand. Did I explain it right, Shawn?
That sounds great to me. I mean, it really does. And, that really is empowering. It puts somebody in a position to make a well-informed decision. Absolutely.
And ultimately, if you look at cash versus investment, it's an opportunity cost that is okay to take because the upside in the investment is so much greater that $500 on a relative scale. I've heard of multifamily guys. This is going to make you hurt inside. I heard a story of multifamily guys walking away from a $500,000 earnest money that was locked in. They walked away from it because the deal wasn't good.
Wow.
Because they knew that they would lose more money on the back end, and so they walked away from it.
That's a hefty price to pay.
Yeah, but ultimately, maybe that was something that the inspection report came up and they were already too far along. So what people need to understand, and I want you to explain as much from your department of what you do, I don't think people truly understand the timeline process from I got a house under contract to, how does your turnaround time work? When do they need to be thinking about calling you? Like the moment they get it under contract? How does that work?
Well, I'll tell you, Colorado is an extremely competitive market with an extremely low inventory for homes that are for sale right now. So I have agents that actually call me when they have offers in, and there are these bidding wars. So they're like, Shawn, what's your schedule look like? Okay, can you hold this spot for me on this particular day and we can make this happen? And I've actually obliged that. And sometimes it work out, sometimes they fall through, but I actually have kind of put that in. If I can get in and do the inspection, I pride myself on turning the inspection report around the same day. Sometimes I'll stagger it. I'll send it to the agent and then the client in the morning, because the nature of real estate transaction, when you're dealing with retail, sometimes people panic and they don't really know how to react. So you get a chance to look at the report and prepare, to have that discussion. But a lot of times I could send the report to everybody the same night, and I'm a one-stop shop. I'll do the sewer scope, I'll do the home inspection. And if there's a radon test necessary, if I can, I'd actually like to drop that off 2 days before, because radon tests require 48 hours to actually be properly administered. So I'll pick up a radon test and check out those radon levels. But yeah, I pride myself on turning all three of those reports around really quickly with extremely accurate information.
And I think what's more important is, as I bought a couple houses opposed to my first one to my other ones, the first one came back to me and, I might as well just throw it up on the table because I'm so nervous about everything. But the inspector that I had was so good at what he did. He had referrals for me to fix the problems. And so it really is, this is why I wanted to bring you on. It really is a part of the real estate transaction portfolio that not a lot of people talk about. I don't think that y'all get the do your that you're due, but more importantly, it's because you're so damn busy. Like I think that's more the case. It's like that's a lot of work to do, a 36 or 46 point inspection and then turn it around the same day. It's a lot of work, and when you have 6 or 5 of those in one day, it's a massive amount of undertaking.
Yeah, well, I personally, I probably put my inspection time. I tell people about an hour per 1,000 square feet. So I'll do 2 inspections a day. I'll get both reports turned around. I make myself available to answer any questions that anybody might have. And then, with all that being said, I definitely like to make sure that people are comfortable and kind of take people into the house as opposed to leave them at the door. So I have things like recall checks, and I do have, resources that can help people. So the resourcefulness portion is important, as you mentioned. So it's like, oh, you need a plumber? I know somebody. Or you need an electrician? I know somebody. You need this sewer line fixed? Here's a couple people you can call. And, that's always helpful as well.
And so before we step into other parts of your life and who you are as a person, which I love even more, if somebody is looking for an inspector, Google reviews are always great, but what are the questions, if you had to pick 1 or 2 or 3, they need to be asking said inspector to get a gauge of the best one?
Well, I think one question that you want to ask is, once again, how are you governed or certified? Internachi is great. ASHI is another one, but you want to know that somebody is actually operating to a standard. And if you have standards, you know that they're actually going to come back and do well. Google reviews, as you mentioned, people look at those all the time. And, when it comes to Google reviews, you have some people that may just be disgruntled and just want to put something on there. But I think it's important that you always look for patterns. You know what I mean? If you see, hey, this person is known for, not delivering the report on time, or this person is known for always being late or something like that, those are important things to kind of look for. But you also want to ask, like, what, you want to ask if it's going to be one of those things where it's a pass or fail. That's not how inspections work. It's like, you don't want somebody who's going to go in and be like, oh my God, this is just, everything is terrible and it's awful, it's crazy. You see this doorknob right here? Oh my gosh, it's broken. This is a deal breaker. It's like, hey, just like I said, there are things that are big deals that may need to be fixed. But I like to tell people, just about anything could be fixed. The problem is it often comes down to cost. It's like, it's going to cost you to fix this. And, it is a big deal, but, you can get this fixed. And it's all about the negotiation expert. I just present the facts. So, you just want to make sure somebody can kind of help manage the emotion as well, because that's really a big deal. It's like, especially have these first time home buyer people, they will panic and just be scared and so many things. And it's like, hey, yeah, this is a big deal. This can be a problem, but we found it and we can fix it. You know what I mean? And you can monitor it over time and you know what the issue is. So I think that's just something to kind of make sure that people are well informed and they know what's going on.
It's like you knew where I was going, because, I want to talk about, I see you as a person who has cultivated over time. I know you have big plans. I know where you want to go. Let's dive into the mindset and kind of where you cultivated this kind of, your value system and what you stand for behind your work, and kind of, where did that start for you?
Well, it started when I kind of made the realization that if I want to be truly empowered and I want to create a legacy for my family, it's going to start with something that I have to build myself. I can't have expectations of anyone that I work for to actually provide a better legacy than I can provide for myself. So when it came down to it, I decided that I wanted to start a business to also help empower people in extremely important ways. So being knowledgeable about your house, making sure people are safe, and home ownership is a legacy building principle in and of itself. So it's like um, these are all cornerstones and foundations that I have and that I could actually share with my children. I could tell them why these things are important. And I can kind of engulf myself in an industry that is the number one for building wealth and just kind of grow with it, learn as much as I can from so many different angles, and offer, my best intentions to anybody that needs it.
I have a secret motive to have you on the podcast. And the reason is something that I felt in my heart and something that I felt really passionate about that. Now I'll break it down why I feel that way. Some of the best investors that I've had on the podcast that are multimillionaires, done 2,000 deals, 1,800 deals, started out in construction or started out in wholesaling. And I think we as people, especially new to the game, are trying to transition out of a 9-to-5 or a regular job or the restaurant business. I think we see real estate agent as a glamorous position. It's fun. We drive the nice cars. It's all good. But I truly believe that if you want to be the best investor on the planet, I think there's no better cash per hour / understanding the aspects of investing and what a home looks like than starting out your career as an inspector.
Wow. I mean, I think that's a great comment and a great approach, and I'll humbly say I'm definitely trying to get better every day and trying to figure it out, not only from an inspector perspective, but also learning how I want to invest and what I'm going to do, and how I can get there further. My wife and I have discussed it quite a bit. And, really, it's also setting the foundation and the pathway for our children. My oldest son just closed on his first condo. So he's 20 years old,
No way.
So, yeah. So he's,
Where did you get that idea from?
Well, we shared it with him and we told him, it's like, you don't want to pay rent to somebody else. And he has a roommate and, it's really just kind of building some wealth for him as well. But it's also one of those things where I feel like you got to kind of know what kind of work you have to put in, so now his expectations are managed. There are some plumbing issues that have to be fixed, and I've went over there and I've installed a couple outlets.
It's good for him. Yeah, it's good for him.
Yeah, like it's not, it's not all it's not a bowl of cherries. It's like you have to kind of use some elbow grease and get in there. And I feel like it's kind of a blue collar approach to, getting into this industry. And that's kind of how I wanted to approach it. But at the same time, just learn as much as I can from the great professionals that I'm around and create resources for myself, and others. So.
And that's my proximity is power and being around and involved in these things. And so what's interesting to me is, when you were raised as a kid, was your dad an entrepreneur or a real estate investor? Like, what sparked it for you to pass this on to your kids to change, maybe the generational shift?
Well, actually, both of my parents were in the healthcare industry. So my dad was an RN for years and years. My mom, she was a respiratory therapist at the VA hospital, which in the world of COVID would have been really useful now, but I actually lost her when I was 17 years old. She passed from cancer. So it's one of those things where I really didn't know any of these principles or all these different empowering things about real estate. My mom did buy a house where my brother and myself and she lived, when I was probably 12 years old. And I never really understood the significance of that. But now that I'm an adult, and I mean, I've owned my home for 10 years and I want to set my kids on the pathway to home ownership. And I feel like real estate is the best way to retire and you can kind of set yourself up. I feel like, not to knock any other investment strategies, I feel like it's an investment strategy where if you put in the work and you understand how everything is structured, it's going to be fine. You know, you're going to actually create the cash flow, the return that you're looking for. And it's really harder for people to kind of play you, so to speak, whereas if you're dealing with these other investments, it's like you never know what's going to happen with the stock market. You never know what's going to happen with all these different funds. And it's like you're always an outsider. You know, you can't really get enough information, I feel, to educate yourself as adequately as you like, unless you actually become one of those professionals. And, you know, I'll be honest, I could be wrong. It could be one of those things where more research can be done and I could have a better understanding. But I just feel like real estate is much easier to understand. And that's something that I like and appreciate.
You're not wrong. You're 100% right. And so one of my passions, especially over the last years, is understanding the psychology of money and why and how people use it and spend it and all this stuff. And what people don't understand is my buddy's closing on a massive project today. I mean, big one. And we understand the logistics of everything that needs to get done. I'm part owner in it. And my company's going to be running it. A lot of people would look at fear around that. But when you understand the mechanisms of how to generate double the cash flow by putting said asset in, 30 more RV slots, right? At this price point, get you this much money back. When you're in the game long enough and you've been around it and you hear it long enough, is it really that much of a gamble? Or is it that I know what it is? I buy a house for $200K and I put a renter in, I cash flow $300K. I get to, take depreciating assets on the property. They pay the mortgage down. And in 20 years, 15 years, I have a house that's paid off that's generating me $1,500 a month. But the emotion behind investing, because the number looks so big, is what gets people all messed up. But if you understand the mechanism and leverage to debt and all these things, like I was listening to a podcast the other day. One of the guys I first ever listened to on Bigger Pockets, he was at the first TV show of investing. He said 1 to 3 investment properties was a son of a bitch. He said, but 12 to 60 was easy as shit. He goes, because he bought 33 houses at the same time, because he said, like, you just understand, like, okay, put a renter in. And so if you understand the dichotomy that we're headed, even though the market's high, we're headed towards some kind of something, right? Well, people are going to need a rent. So if they lose assets, they're going to need a rent. And so you have the asset that they rent. It's, we create this emotion behind it. And so, I've met plenty of people, like if your son, he's 20 now, like if he picked up a property a year for the next 10 years, he's retired. Like that's it. But we got to get to 30 units. No, you can get to 6 and be fine. And so your gift to your son is, you might not reap all the benefits of it, like teaching him this, but his kids and his kids and his kids are going to get all the benefits. So you're really creating this shift impactfully. Like when I meet 20-year-old, 18-year-old kids that said, I've watched my dad work his entire fucking life and he's 65 years old and I want to buy a house at 20 and I want to buy a house at 21 because I want to retire him. Like that's the shit that gets me excited. I get pumped up when I hear stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that makes sense. It's kind of creating a legacy. When you talk about it, a lot of people think it's like, okay, I'm going to leave behind, this massive amount of wealth. But I feel like a legacy is really more a mindset. It's like, those jewels that you teach and that you put in your kid's brain, that is way more impactful than any money you can ever get them. Because if they lose it all, they can get it all again because you gave them the information. And I feel like that's where legacy is really much more impactful.
Shawn, you just hit, dude, I'm stealing that. Legacy is a mindset. Oh my God. I'm a mindset coach and I didn't even think of that. It's so good because do you know who Jim Rohn is? Do you know who Jim Rohn
absolutely. I love Jim Rohn.
Do you know what he said? He said, my mentor asked me, what's your goal? Your goal should be, you want to become a millionaire. He goes, that's stupid as shit. He goes, I don't understand that. And then when he became a millionaire and lost all his money, he said, oh, I get it. I get the gift of who I became to become a millionaire so I can go make it again.
Yeah,
And you're
absolutely.
100% right, because once, what they say is that the income that you receive is based on the amount of personal development that you've done.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
I get a lot of coaching clients to say, if I start working on myself, I'm going to be taking a focus away from my business. And I said, that is the most ridiculous way to look at it. You're actually going to be giving yourself 10x, 20x in your business because you're operating from a higher level mindset to not be in the weeds, right? And so what I wanted to ask you, as an entrepreneur that went from zero to nothing, has a family, has everything, building a company, how do you keep it all together?
I'm really glad that you asked me that question, because the personal development piece, I mean, I am always just tinkering and fine tuning and finding new things that I love to do. And I would say, if I had to say the most impactful thing, something that has been very hard to attain, and I'm actually going to pull this sheet off of one of my vision boards here, is the goal mine task, is what I call them. GOAL mine. The goal mine task, MINE. And it's actually something I got from a focal point by Brian Tracy. And he says there are 7 points to it. So it's like, number one is the golden hour. Read 1 hour in your profession every day. I actually trump that and I say 1 hour in your profession, 30 minutes in development. Revisit and rewrite your goals every day. Plan the next day in advance. Concentrate on the best use of your time. Listen to educational audio in your car. Ask yourself these 2 questions in situations. What did I do right? What would I do differently? And as a coach, I'm sure people will beat themselves up and they ask themselves all the wrong questions, or they say all the wrong things to themselves. What did I do right? What would I do differently? I feel like those are really powerful. And then treat everyone that you encounter like $1 million customer.
Boom.
And those things are supposed to
That
give
last one is
you.
what I live by, bro.
Yeah. So, I mean, and family is treasure is the bonus, because that's where you get your strength from. But those are the principles. And I mean, in addition to that, I mean, I incorporate a lot of stuff. One of the latest people I've been listening to is David Goggins. He just like inspires me so much. I was at the gym this morning at 5 a.m., going crazy hard, got my 100 deadlifts in.
There you go.
And then, I got a tour day coming. I'm going to do some more tonight, so it's like, I'm trying to just really put my mind in that place where, I'm just in tune, because like you said, yeah, the fitness is a big deal. The development, the reading, all that is a big deal. But when it comes to business, it just makes me like, it takes the energy level from like here to like, through the roof. And I can kind of insert that energy into everything that I need to do. So I'm
gonna add 2 things on the end of that you're gonna get a kick out of. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed lately with all my coaching clients is anytime you're having a tough customer, a tough client, somebody that's tough or testing you in your life, ask yourself, why is this person here and what are they teaching me?
Okay. Yeah.
Because we so many times attach ourselves to the way that people are reacting to us. And actually what they're doing is the way that we're reacting towards them, but we're not looking at it that way.
Yeah. I mean, that is a big deal. And I mean, I definitely will incorporate that, because
then one more. I interviewed a billionaire the other day, and he said something to me that I've taken to heart. He said, Austin, you know who the hell I want to thank? Who's my favorite person in the time? And he's 55. He said, you know who's my favorite person in the entire world? He said, 21-year-old me. And he says, you know who I like even more? 25-year-old me. And you know who I like even more? 32-year-old me. Because that son of a bitch went to work. And he said, you know why? He said, because they set this guy up like a damn gangster. And he said, so wake up every day and ask yourself, what can I do today that my 55-year-old self is going to thank me for?
That is powerful. That's a big deal. I mean, because often, you know, we get mired in the past and don't appreciate what we've done as much. And I'm trying to find more gratitude for that lately. Mm-hmm. But what I'm doing now, yeah, I want to set that foundation for the future for sure. That's awesome.
100%. And so I know you're localized to the Denver market, but if people want to find out more about you or anything like that, how would they do that?
So I'm on, I have a website, so that's ironphx.com. Also, I'm on facebook.com/ironphx, and that's all I got. I need more handles. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on the gram just yet.
You don't need any of that stuff, bro. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. Trying to minimize distractions, you know.
Yeah. My favorite quote is, Austin, you're 9 miles wide and 1 centimeter deep. We need you 1 foot wide, 9 miles straight down.
Okay. I could dig it, man. Because that's where you find the oil, man. That's where you get the gold. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
Well, you know, Shawn, I brought you on here because I wanted to teach people about inspections, but more importantly, I brought you on here because you're a man that I respect and what you stand for as a family man and an entrepreneur. And so I just wanted to tell you that it's deeper than just inspections, my brother.
Well, hey, man, thank you very much. I'm really grateful by your kind words. I think you're an awesome guy too, man. And I really appreciate your energy. You know, I wish you nothing but greatness. And I hope we can link up again many times in the future.
You got it, my man. I'm going to throw an event in Denver this year. So I'll hit you up. You can come out, man. We're going to have some great speakers.
Absolutely. I'll be there.
All right, my man.
All right, Austin. You have a great day, great week.
You got it, guys. If you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends, and we appreciate y'all for listening.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.